under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John Basil, First Ward.
Bill Carlos, Second Ward.
Joe Conti, Third Ward.
Michael Savone, Fourth Ward.
Stefan Cracker, Fifth Ward.
Ann Schurshin, Sixth Ward.
Todd Tancredi, Supervisor.
Alicia Salvatore, Town Clerk.
Jim Nelson, Attorney for the town.
All right, we have start with our special town board meeting. It should only be a minute or two, but we have a resolution before us that would advertise for proposals for licensed realtors for the lease and or sale of town property, such as the White House, which is no longer being used. There's a piece of property down in New Hamburg that's on a cul-de-sac. That's a constant battle to try to keep clean, keep people from dumping on that. And then, we have we have the Tucker Drive property, two pieces over there that we own. So, this is to put it out there. If somebody were to come in on any parcels we own and make us an offer we can't refuse, or making us an offer that we thought was acceptable, we certainly would be open to looking at those things. It doesn't mean obviously anything's written in stone or that we have anything in mind, but it's just to open that door, and we thought the best way to do it would be to do advertise for proposals from realtors, licensed real estate brokers. They get a commission, and some might look for less of a commission than others, so we thought the best way to approach it would be put it out there. Jay, you want to read it, and then we'll take questions?
Be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie does hereby authorize the Director of Development to issue a request for proposals for a New York State licensed real estate broker for lease or sale of town property in substantially the form submitted, with the proposal opening to be held on or about June 26, 2014. And be it further resolved, the Town Board is hereby determined that this action is a Type 2 action requiring no environmental review. And be it further resolved, the Town Board is hereby authorized notice of this RFP to be published in the Poughkeepsie Journal. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Poughkeepsie is hereby reserved the right to accept or reject all proposals in whole or part. So moved.
Second.
For motion and second, any discussion from the Town Board? Nope. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the end of our one-item special meeting. So I'd like to make a motion to open the committee of the whole meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I have a couple presentations tonight. First is by the League of Women Voters. L.A. Sharwat came to supervise the mayor's meeting a couple months ago, February, March, and gave a presentation, and I think it's very informative, and she expressed an interest in potentially sharing the information with the town of Poughkeepsie, so they're here tonight to give us the information that they have. Ellie?
Thank you, Todd. We're happy to be here. I'd like to introduce the rest of my team: Yolanda Janssen, Soyal Smalls, and Gina Klein. We're all residents of the town of Poughkeepsie. It happens. There are other members of the committee from Ulster, City of Poughkeepsie, Hyde Park, and other areas. What got us interested about 3 years ago was, seeing how every level of government is trying to make do with less resources, less revenue, and wondering how the League might help by possibly looking into how other governments are consolidating services, sharing services, or trying to do local government in a different way. You probably know in Dutchess County alone, there are 189 units of government and special districts. That's cities, towns, school districts, fire districts, sewer districts, all the other districts. All of New York State is just a patchwork of government entities. And why shouldn't some of them work more closely? Here's a map of Ulster County has 20 towns, 1 city, 3 villages. Dutchess County has 20 towns, 2 cities, and 8 villages, 26 fire districts, 7 fire protection districts, and 13 school districts. Things that have happened in the past few years that affect a lot of this, of course, we all know about the tax cap that the state has imposed, the property tax cap in 2011, and this year they're making some of the benefits of the tax cap contingent on consolidating services. Dutchess County, under Mark Molinaro, started doing grants with some of the sales tax money that he took from the towns and giving it back to the towns and villages if they could show shared services. Last year, $2 million was budgeted, though only $1.4 million was given out. And I know the town has gotten a couple of those grants. We'll go through that. Next year, as far as we know, only $1 million has been budgeted for those grants. New York State also has given awards in the past for shared services. Dutchess County, of our neighboring county, has gotten a smaller share of those state awards than some of our neighboring counties. And these are just some examples of the state grants that have been given. The town of Fishkill, along with East Fishkill and Dutchess County, built an artificial wetland treatment system for a joint landfill with $200,000 from the state. The village of Millbrook and the town of Washington will share a joint water and sewer system. That's in progress, $600,000. And Ulster County, these are a couple of examples. Can you go back to what they did with Kingston in terms of tourism shared services, and in New Paltz and town of Lloyd having to do with the highway system and sharing equipment. So these are state grants. Now we'll go to some of the county grants from last year. I know you all approved a grant with town of Hyde Park for joint purchase of an automated salt spreader. Red Hook and Tivoli are doing shared highway services. Town and Village of Pauling are sharing a fuel farm. And then a whole bunch of towns are doing, I thought town of Poughkeepsie was in that, aren't you?
No, we're
you're not in that. Okay, the cloud-based building permitting and planning software, so everybody's on the same cloud for that. And then City of Beacon is doing electronic document and meeting management, and Village and Town of Rhinebeck are sharing a computer network. So these are, beginning steps of sharing some services. You already have this town of Poughkeepsie, I remember from when I was on the town board, City-Town Water, City-Town Library District, you have the Tri-Municipal Sewer District, and the water system, water agreement with the city of Poughkeepsie. So the town already has some significant shared services. We're just encouraging you to think about other ways that you can work with some of the other municipalities or with the county or with the state. Mr. Carlos was sharing that when he was in Putnam County, he was on the Shared Services Committee. So I'd love to talk to you more about some other ideas. So it's just a matter, I think, really of looking at different ways of doing what you've always done and how could it be better. Beekman and Dover are sharing an assessor, a tax assessor, one person, but they're sharing that person's salary. City of Beacon is looking to consolidate 3 of their firehouses into one. Now, Pattern for Progress in Newburgh has looked at, I think did a survey 4 years ago of all the town supervisors in Dutchess County and tried to see what areas were of most interest to the towns at that time. And that was sharing services for tax assessment, highway services, purchasing electricity, and reducing the cost of employee health insurance. Some of the things we've been looking at is the criminal justice system, fire districts, insurance consortium, property tax administration, the public bus transportation that has to do with the city of Poughkeepsie and the county loop buses. There's been a study whether those two could be consolidated, and we're working with the city of Poughkeepsie for a public forum on that issue. And then purchasing, there is a county purchasing system, there is a state purchasing system, and many of the towns are already part of that. Criminal justice, a lot of it had to do with the jail, but what has to do with the local governments might be something like centralized arraignment and trying to collaborate on training and trying to speed up some of the trials. So many of the people in the jail are awaiting trial or arraignment. That's what's clogging up the jail. So if we can speed that whole criminal justice system from the town level, town justice courts up, might help. Fire districts, so I know there was a study that Fairview did last year about looking at different consolidation of fire districts. I know that's a political hot potato. We thought we might look at maybe the emergency part of the fire districts, consolidating or sharing better. You have a 911 county-wide system. Couldn't you have a 911 emergency response, medical response system? When I was on the town board, this town had a contract with a private ambulance service rather than have the fire districts do the ambulance. I don't know if which was more cost effective, but that might be something to look at. Wappingers has private ambulance service they contract out with. How does that compare with what we pay? I pay $1,600 a year to the Arlington Fire District for my home. That's a lot of money just for the fire. Insurance, the county has developed a consortium for workman's comp that the towns can go into, and many of the towns have done that.
Yeah, we have.
What? And you have? Yes, and other towns are doing that, and at least initially, many of the towns are saving money doing that. And they're trying to set up a health insurance consortium, too. So, again, we're encouraging municipalities to participate in these.
Is that a health insurance consortium? Has that moved forward at all, or is that kind of stalled out?
As far as I know, they're still working on it. A lot of information, hasn't come out, but they're still moving in that direction. And, I've told them we'd certainly be interested in listening to what they had to say if it came about.
Well, they have one for the schools, DHIC, Dutchess Educational Health Insurance Consortium, I think it's called.
Well, BOCES has a program for the
BOCES,
school
yeah.
districts.
I think it
So-
started with 10 school districts, it's up to 26.
Right.
And they're
So-
so big now that they can directly negotiate with the health insurance company for
And they
coverage.
get better rates. So if all the towns do that, they should be able to do the same. So that's part of the thinking behind the county. I don't know where they are in the process. Okay, and then property tax assessment, some counties in New York State even have a county tax assessor for the whole county. Others are certainly sharing assessors. In Fishkill and Wappinger, Beacon East, Fishkill, and LaGrange, Unionvale, they're getting incentives from the state for creating coordinated assessment programs. So this is something the town might want to look at. You get a per parcel break if you do that. So this is one other area. So we're just throwing out some ideas. The buses I mentioned, that really doesn't affect you directly, but the routes, in the study that was done, the county claims that it would, if they ran the system for the city, the routes would expand, they would be longer, they wouldn't stop, buses wouldn't stop at 6 p.m., they'd go to 9 p.m. Service would be better for everybody, and nobody would lose out. So a lot of the people in the city are reluctant to give up their buses, but it's something I think should be considered and would certainly save the city money. Purchasing, I think a lot of the municipalities are already participating in the state for big items like trucks or cars. And small items, there is a county-wide bidding system you can get for water or whatever you order in bulk, paper, other products. You can get breaks
Yeah, we do much of our purchasing through the county.
through the county.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of the towns didn't even seem to know about this, so, yeah, okay. And then the challenges that we're hearing, it sounds good. Will it really save money? People might lose their jobs or benefits. Local control be lost, local power be lost, residents aren't informed, and, people just don't want change. I don't know if you ever read that book, Who Moved My Cheese? People don't like,
Who did move my cheese?
don't like change. And there are some roadblocks by laws or regulations of how much you can do. Sometimes state laws or local laws have to be changed if you do any of these things. We're just asking you to keep your minds open. There is some good news. Data sharing is being explored. Governor Cuomo is certainly pushing for shared services, and as is County Executive Molinaro, he's actually appointed a shared services director at the county, a man named Chris Barkley, and he says he's going to do a shared service summit this year at some point so everybody can share some of the ideas they're doing. So we'd be glad to hear your ideas. If you think of anything, we see our role as just information.
So the county actually created a shared services position?
I wasn't aware of that.
That's a full-time position, like a
He's
department director?
he's already with the county, so maybe he's received another title.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That was announced a couple months ago.
Is that where sales tax went?
I don't know about that, but
Yeah,
I think when
we
Nick
haven't-
Johnson retired, Chris Barkley, that Nick Johnson's job was merged into his. I know we deal with him with much of our purchasing through the print shop and that type of thing. So maybe he's got an additional title now. I don't know.
Now, the grants are underway for this year. You
Yes.
said, Todd, you were applying for some more grants? Yeah.
Yes, we apply, we're applying again through the Tri-Municipal Sewer Commission with the Village of Wappingers and Town of Wappingers, and then we're also applying with the Spagnville School District for a 1-ton dump truck with a salt spreader to help salt their parking lots. A shared truck. Instead of both of us buying one, it would be one that's shared. So, I think the board, we've always been tried to be proactive when it comes to sharing services. Or sometimes it doesn't make sense for us because as a large municipality, much of our equipment, when we're using it, it's used for long duration of time, our snow blowers and things like that. But I think as a general rule, our ears are always open in terms of saving money for our taxpayers. So we appreciate all the work you've done. Does anybody have any questions for Ally?
Very nice.
Very good.
Very thorough,
I
thank you.
agree.
If there are any citizens groups or groups in your districts that you'd like to have an informal discussion, we'd be glad, we're willing to travel and speak to any organizations or just people in your neighborhoods. I think a lot of people really, everyone complains about their taxes.
Yeah.
But to hear that you're already doing a lot of things and that other communities are too, I think it would be useful for people. So we'll be glad to help in any way we can.
Good. Well, we appreciate the information, appreciate you coming in, all the hard work you've done to
Okay.
compile these stats and figures, and look forward to anything you have to share in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Next, we have a presentation and discussion. We have the Wendel Group here. Talk about streetlights and LED streetlights, and some of the town boards had an opportunity to speak to them previously, but I thought it would be great if we could get the ball rolling along the lines of potentially, and to kind of coattail on what the League of Women Voters said as an effort to reduce costs and reduce expenses for the taxpayers to potentially save quite a bit of money with LED streetlights. So.
Thanks for having us tonight, Board. Tonight, we just wanted to go over some preliminary findings that we found regarding the street lighting system here in the town. The agenda for us is an introduction of Wendell and his team, the idea of the street lighting project, the benefits of street lighting, LED street lighting specifically, the vehicle or the contract that we're bringing forth to possibly do the LED project, which is a performance-based contracting, some preliminary project economics, and then some next steps that we would go forward if you approve the project. So tonight, my name is Samuel Murata. I'm an energy engineer for Wendel Energy Services.
My name's Andy Bucati. I'm a project manager, also an energy engineer, working for Wendel Energy Services.
Wendel is at heart an AE firm, and we have two different parts to our AE firm, and that is an energy service division and a construction division. So we not only will dream it up, engineer it, we can also do analysis on it and construct it for you. It all revolves around the customer. So our energy division actually is accredited and has many recognitions from different entities out there. One of the most notable would be the NASCO, and also the Department of Energy has listed us on one of their ESCO contractors list for the Federal Energy Management Program. This is just a quick list of, and I won't read them all off to you, of some of the towns and villages and cities that we've done work with across the state.
Just to touch upon what energy performance contracting is. Energy performance contracting is a financial model in which infrastructure needs can be evaluated. There's an existing operational and energy cost associated with various energy components within the town infrastructure. In this case, we're focusing on the street lighting component. So before the project, we do a full analysis of the system, determine what that operational maintenance cost is and energy cost, and a new technology is recommended in which that would guarantee energy savings. That guaranteed energy savings is what the financial mechanism is for performance contracting. Those energy savings are guaranteed, and at the after the project is completed, there's a reduced impact to the town for their energy costs and operation and maintenance. Some of the benefits of this type of financial mechanism is that the savings are guaranteed. The savings that result for this project pay for the infrastructure improvements, and it's usually less than the energy savings that are accrued, so that results in a net positive cash flow per year to the town. The energy service company, or the ESCO, acts as the general contractor for all the project. They work at obtaining pricing from various vendors, installers to do this work. Thus, the energy service company is the single point of contact and responsibility to make sure that the project moves fully and gets built. The owner, in this case, the town of Poughkeepsie, maintains full control of the project, engages in the selection of materials, vendors, full transparency to the pricing that's involved in the project. And this results in accelerated and simplified project implementation approach. Wendel will assist the town in working and coordinating with the utility, the street lighting, engage with Central Hudson to ensure that the project moves flawlessly, and we ensure that you're also engaged in viewing and picking the right product.
Now on to some of the benefits of the actual proposed technology. So there's four key components to the benefits: reduced maintenance costs, improved lighting, energy savings and environmental benefits, and then increased energy basically equals reduced costs to the owners, which would be the town. So one of the maintenance benefits is LED lights last longer. And what that basically means is a man in a truck doesn't have to go out as often to replace the bulb out there. So you're saving on man hours for people going out there, and you're also saving on the environmental benefits of not having a truck driving around in your city. Also, less maintenance is spent on any trucks or tools for that. One of the side benefits is given the right color temperature, you don't actually attract as many insects with LED lights. So this here is a technical slide scale of the color rendering index against color temperature. So out of the older technologies, or just trying to show with a slide that LED technologies actually give you a better color rendering index and a whiter light. What this translates into is the lights that are out there now, the oranger lights, you can't define what colors are out there. And that means if somebody was, say, to be hit by a car, you wouldn't be able to tell as well if it's a blue or an orange or a white car. It also helps improve with security. So this just shows the different technologies that are out there. The majority of them are metal halide and high pressure sodiums. The higher the color rendering index, the better you are to be able to actually see stuff out there and define colors. So LED actually tops 75, which is photo quality at that point. This was actually taken from a photography website, and it just shows you in real life what color rendering index does to a picture with many colors in it. So this top area up in the corner would be what your high pressure sodiums would normally make colors look like at night. Some before and after pictures of what streetscapes look like with a whiter LED light and versus the high pressure sodium. And this is a partial list of LED street installations across the country, across North America. There's many more that are being added to that every day. Town of Islip, New York City, and many other municipalities are contemplating moving forward to this new technology too. So a little blurb from the U.S. Department of Energy, exterior lighting for energy savings. Basically, they recommend LED lights. They have more uniform distribution, and that makes it to where not only the naked eye can adjust better at night to be able to see things, but security cameras as well. So on the energy savings environmentals, it reduces energy used for lightings on the average of 40 to 50%. It lowers the strain on the electrical grid, reduces carbon emissions from power plants, doesn't contain the toxic mercury that most of the other technologies do, and you have fewer fixture replacements, so that means less raw materials needed in the long run. So this would be, based on the projected project savings, this would be what the savings would look like for a project like the town of Poughkeepsie. So essentially, by doing the project, instead of having to go out and plant 31,000 trees, you're just switching the technologies from what they are now to an LED. All right.
But we could plant 31,000 trees.
Absolutely.
We could do that too.
Yeah.
Sam, I think he just volunteered.
All right. Well, we'll get a party together and some trees then. Proposed LED fixtures are, the efficiencies are 80 to 110 lumens per watt, and high pressure sodiums are down around 70 to 80 lumens per watt. And that it was the most efficient lighting out there is high pressure sodiums. It's the standard for what's used out there, and that's the orange light as you're driving home tonight. One of the better things about LED technology is it's a directional light, which means with these lights, literally you can make them do right angles and light up only certain parts of the street. So that means there's going to be less light transgression from one property to the next. There's not going to be any lights that are going to be shining in the living rooms. They're going to be directed towards the streets and the sidewalks. Preliminary project economics. So based on the information that was given us by the town, we took a look at what a project like this would be able to produce cash flow wise and how much it would cost. So, a large number at first, an estimated project cost of $7 million. And annual cost savings for energy would be $127,000. An O&M savings from this that you're being directly billed by Central Hudson would be along the lines of $520,000. So you're paying more to actually have them maintain it than to power them. Total cost savings around $645,000 the first year. And then your annual project payment would be $625,000.
And Sam, just to make sure we're clear, the project would be switching out all our street lights from mercury or whatever they are now to LEDs.
Correct. Correct. The savings numbers that are put there also take account that these are saving numbers after you pay the electrical bills and go out and maintenance the new ones. Because we don't expect LEDs, as good as they are, to last a full 20 years. We expect some of them to go out. There are going to be problems with some of them. The current ones that we use in this analysis have a 10-year warranty on them. So for the first 10 years, if one of them breaks, you don't pay any money for parts. So the proposed LED project includes the street lighting upgrades and the estimated cost of attachment from Central Hudson themselves. So that's the cost to acquire the lights and then replace them, and then also to have them hang on the Central Hudson poles. You wouldn't own the poles, just the lights and the arms.
But we don't own the poles now.
Correct. This is a cash flow in a graph. The blue would be the financing cost for the acquisition of the lights and the retrofitting of the lights. And the green behind it would actually be the savings generated from that. So as you see, every year that you have to make a project payment, it's offset by the savings, and then you have a surplus to the town. This actually depicts what you're paying now currently to own and operate your lights, would be the blue line up top. And the green line would be the projected costs of owning, operating, and powering the lights after the proposed project. So all that savings between the blue and the green line would be used to finance the project, and then after that, all the savings would go to the town. So some of the next steps, and this timetable may be aggressive, but I had to put dates to it. The next step for the town would be issue an RFP to procure ESCO services. After that, you would select an ESCO. That ESCO would go on to perform an investment grade audit where they would find hard savings numbers and hard cost numbers. And projected date of start of construction would be around December 1st of this year. Closing of construction 1 year after that with a measurement and verification report from that ESCO to be able to prove savings to the town.
Sam, for the members of the board that didn't get to speak to you earlier tonight, could you explain how you guarantee the fees as far as the guarantee for the savings for the town?
Yeah, so as part of the energy performance contract model, the energy savings that are determined by the number of light fixtures that are that will be owned by the town, that energy savings and that savings from getting out of the contract with Central Hudson, those savings are a number that we will measure and verify through a reporting of the actual wattage of the new fixtures versus the old technology. And that is what is actually a guaranteed savings number. That guaranteed savings number is important to the financial institution because that upfront project cost is determined based on those savings. You go out to a 15-year loan for the project, it will become the savings become the collateral that the bank uses, and so they need to be guaranteed by the ESCO. Wendel would then, if the savings are not met, issue a check to the town if those savings are not met.
So the difference in the savings, what was guaranteed and the savings that were actually realized, if there was a difference, a shortfall of that, Wendel would be on the line to actually write a check to cover the difference in the financing payment.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody?
When we spoke about this, we talked about the fact that if we start and we were to offer to the village of Wappingers or the town of Wappinger, those three entities represent 25% of the county's population. So they would have their own connection, but by adding on to us, they get a better price, it's per light.
Correct.
Did I understand it correctly? So if we were to go forward with this and at least offer those two entities, I understand the city of Poughkeepsie is already doing this?
Yes, they are in the midst of going forward with a project.
Okay.
I mean, the benefits of, I've heard so many times, older people having trouble seeing at night. I just like the idea of the brighter light. I mean, it just makes so much sense. It's where I think we need to be going to help anybody out on the roads. I like the idea of it, and I like the savings long term. Everything is going to LED. We've been seeing it for years. Seeing them in tractors now too, and headlights.
Yeah, that list of cities that Sam had showed earlier is growing every day because the cost of LED technology has come to a point where it's very attractive to engage in a project now. So when the technology first came out, the design of the light fixtures was still being figured out. Now they've gotten to a point, large cities on that list, New York City, Los Angeles, are engaging in projects like this to change over their entire infrastructure. And, you know, that's the type of thing that Wendel can do for the town of Poughkeepsie.
Vandalism, was that covered in this? I know you'd said 10 years as a warranty. What if somebody broke it? Is that our responsibility, or is that in the 10-year warranty?
Vandalism, I doubt, would be covered by the manufacturer's warranty on the product itself. Chances of vandalism, well, on some of the lower lights, there is a chance that somebody could get up there and vandalize it, the post-top lights. That is a very good possibility.
Yeah, it'd be more likely to be hit by a car though, and then the pole would be taken out.
I just wondered, hoping kids don't throw rocks up there or some silly stuff.
I don't know.
What about at the end of the useful life, the replacement cost, is that factored into that?
We have, under the
Budgeting.
maintenance schedule, we have an escalating replacement percentage per year. So year one, and in my graph, which
Yeah,
is
I saw
internal-
where it like,
Yeah,
there
it
was
drops
this-
off. There's, every year, it starts, I believe, at 2% and maxes out at 6%. So before the savings are calculated, we take out the cost of replacing 2% of the lights in the first year, even though you're not going to actually need to replace
so it is
them.
budgeted
But you'll have
over
that
the
money
cycle that
budgeted.
they'll be keeping replaced and updated, just.
By year 20, the life of the lights, through the budget that would be laid out through this, you have replaced the lights already. So there wouldn't be a large balloon payment to go out and replace them again. They had been changed out over time.
Okay. And I was able to sit down with you guys before the meeting, and one thing that I kind of like about your approach is that you pretty much lay it all out there. We've had at least one other company come and look at it, and it was more of a, we'll save you money, you don't have to worry about how. And I like I just think it's a very honest, straightforward approach to the process.
I agree.
And that, it should be that we're all working together, and if it saves money, it works for everybody. So far, I've been impressed with the presentation that you guys have given us, so.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Appreciate you guys, the information. Thanks, and we'll be in touch to try to keep this ball rolling.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, it's not on the agenda, but in conjunction with this streetlight project, we have a representative here from Troy and Banks, Keith Tyson. Keith drove down from Buffalo, right, Keith? Yep. From Buffalo today, so I definitely appreciate Keith taking the time to come down, but
Hey, chicken wings.
Troy and Banks has a project I'd like to have Keith tell us about. I think it would be a good idea for the town to pursue. Sure. Keith, it's all yours.
Thank you for allowing me to come tonight and discuss. Our firm is a utility and telecommunication consulting firm that does auditing of bills for errors and overbillings. And where this falls into play with what Wendell just outlined for you is one of the main components, probably the largest energy bill the town receives. Well, the two largest energy bills probably the town receives are your street lighting bill and maybe like the wastewater treatment plant. So the street lighting, it's really neat to see the push for LEDs. It's obviously for years we've known what they can do, and it's now coming to reality. That's great. One of the things that we do as part of our audit is review all the utility bills for errors and overbillings. We're able to go back up to 6 years, depending on the availability of records. This becomes very important in light of what Wendell just outlined for you, because we do streetlight audits. And what I mean by streetlight audit is we audit the system for potential errors and overbillings and basically good record keeping. We physically audit systems. We're currently involved in auditing the city of Buffalo, 31,000 lights. And it's a physical audit, so we have someone on the road that is doing that. But all of the information collected goes into seeking to understand is what you have in the field, what's truly being billed on the bill. If there's discrepancy, the town could be charged too much. And so the idea is to look at the system, do the audit, uncover the errors, and go after the monies and recover the monies and return it to the town. It works really well in relation to what Wendell just did, because those are found monies that have already been spent, that are recovered and returned, and it can certainly help in offsetting any sort of capital improvement costs or work that's going to be done on the streetlight system over the next year. So the packets I just disseminated to you, just some basic information on our firm, processes and procedures, and how we do things. Are there any questions
Keith,
I can answer for you?
My understanding is, your fee is a percentage, which we'd have to negotiate, but a percentage of what you recover.
Correct.
So if as long as you recover something, you get paid, so you kind of have skin in the game along with the town.
Sure. It's a contingency fee percentage, and we don't have any upfront fees. So we strictly get the opportunity to do the work. We get into it. We do the work. It's all on our dime. All our costs are paid for through our office, and then whatever the percentage is that's agreed to. If refunds come back, we get paid our percentage, and everything else goes to the town. All costs incurred for the work are paid for from our percentage. Any legal counsel necessary for us to work through a process or refund with Central Hudson comes out of our percentage, so that the town is made whole in its percent. And so we really take on all the risk, and that's what makes it very tricky, because it's such a 4,000 light system, or whatever the amount of lights you have.
A little over 4,000, I think.
Yeah, you've got multiple pieces within each of those lights, so it's like building out a 10,000 piece puzzle, basically, to try and figure out where discrepancies and errors would be.
And do you have I don't know if this is the case, but is there a track record? In other words, if you do, 800 projects a year, is there 80% of that you end up getting a refund on?
We've been doing street lighting audits for years. We have, I'm not sure how many we would do per year, but we have done hundreds of them across New York State, from very large, city of Syracuse, city of Albany, city of Buffalo, Utica, Rome, down to small villages and towns. And so it's really developed into a niche market for us, and it's been highly successful.
How much? A town our size with 4,000 streetlights, how much could we reasonably expect to see from an audit?
That's a great question, and it's also a question that's very difficult to answer, because every system is unique. Every utility is unique in how they bill it, how well or how poorly they bill it. And so we could go into a system thinking that there might be $100,000 or $200,000 and might not find that, or we could go in thinking that there could be $20,000, $30,000 and come up with $100,000. It really is. It's dependent a lot on the internal record keeping of the utility that is serving you. So in this case, it'd be Central Hudson. We've done some work in Central Hudson. I think it's a great area for opportunity. The city of Beacon, we did some work with them and had a refund of about $230,000. So that would be, that's why I say it's a very difficult question to answer because every system is unique. What we found there, we may not find here. And so that's the reason why the audit is set up to be contingency fee based and no retainer fee associated with. We're willing to take on the risk and the work to produce whatever we can for you.
How long does the audit generally take?
The general portion of the audit, we say about 6 months. The street lighting portion might take a little bit longer, depending on when we can start getting down here and doing the field work. One of the biggest determinants of the length of time of the audit is the responsiveness of Central Hudson. Mm-hmm. So we can do it. We can have. It's quite frequent that we'll have all our work done, submit the findings to the utility, and then it takes the utility, quite some time to work through it because they've got to verify what we've presented. So depending on their responsiveness will depend on the length of time.
I mean, can they just stonewall and almost delay?
They could.
Inevitably, forever.
The refunds come. Like I said, we can go back 6 years with interest, and so the longer they take to work on something, the amount of money just keeps building.
I mean, what it sounds like you're saying is we're going to assess your lighting and we're going to guarantee you a certain amount of money, whether it be $1, but there'll be no cost to the town of Poughkeepsie.
Right.
So even if we were to make $1, we're $1.
Yeah, the one thing I can't do.
No disrespect to you, but if it's 10,000, 100,000, it's better than nothing.
Sure. Mm-hmm. The one thing I can't do is guarantee you that a certain amount of money that we would get from the audit, just because it's so fluid and it's so unique for each individual municipality. But the one thing it will do, outside of correcting any errors, it will give you pretty much an exact representation of what's in the field. Because you look at the Central Hudson bill right now, how do you know that what's listed on the bill is exactly what's in the field? Mm-hmm.
We're an older municipality, so
you're inherently
these lights have been up.
I'm a younger municipality.
You're inherently trusting Central Hudson that what they have on the bill is accurate.
Yeah, and this is information that Wendel can use.
Exactly.
Afterwards, they need this information anyway.
Right. Sam and I, what we've done and collaborated in the past is the information that we produced from the audit was very helpful for them and the municipality in taking the next step. So it's almost like the pre-audit step to getting everything, all the ducks in a row, and then being able to go forward with the streetlight system.
We have to physically go to every streetlight there is. 'Cause I see on here it's wattage too, not just lights. Is there that many different wattages out there?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, sir.
And it's the pumps and the pump stations?
Yeah, we audit utility, telecommunications, and in certain cases, cable franchise agreements too.
So did we ever do an audit of the cable franchise?
That's a good idea.
Because the concern has always been with that is that I think they bill based on zip codes and pay it out based on zip codes, and those aren't really completely accurate. So that's something we
that would require some further discussion, but essentially the cable franchise audit is almost the reverse of what the utility and telecom audits are, right? Because what we're looking for on that end is, has the city received all the money from the franchise agreements that they were supposed to get under the franchise agreement?
We hope not, because we're the town, because if the city got
I'm sorry, the city, sorry, my apologies.
The town. Bigger problem. They would take it though.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And some cable, just like the utility companies, some cable companies are easier or more difficult to work with.
Yeah, we found that out. Any other questions? I think it's a great opportunity for us.
When can you start?
I appreciate Keith again, you coming down, making the long trip. Anything else from the board?
That's it.
Just to your question, Mr. Conti, is we can start as soon as an agreement is approved. There are a couple things that in the beginning of the audit that take some time. One is the collection of the billing information. All that information is listed in those brochures as to what we need. But the collection of the information, getting it in, getting the historical records ordered from the utilities, getting that stuff to us so that we can actually begin the work. But most of the time, on the general part of the audit, that's done within 6 months, and it may take a couple extra a bit of time again to work out any sort of refunds, depending on how Central Hudson is handling it. The streetlight portion could be a little bit longer, just because obviously the massive scope of doing something like that.
And as much as a dollar back in our pocket is a dollar back in our pocket, there is a process to work out as far as what the compensation is, and I do think that, I know with the other
Well,
part
and you
of
also just said we have to get the information for you, so we have to have employee time.
What we require for an audit is the contract, the letter of authorization, and 1 month's complete copy of each bill. So we don't, the idea is we want to minimize the amount of information that you provide us so that it's easy to get the audit going. There might be some additional information down the road that's needed, but with 1 month's complete copy of a bill, we can then take that along with the historical information that we order from the utilities, combine that for the base of the audit. One of the easiest ways to collect the information is, if you know you're going to do this, is just as the bills come in over a period of 4 to 6 weeks, just make a copy of the bill and set it aside, and you've got all your information collected.
We've got a controller that's on top of his game, so
fantastic.
he could probably get you those bills tonight if you needed it.
Any other questions?
That's great.
I think that's it. Appreciate it very much. We'll be in touch. If you have a couple more business cards.
Sure do. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right. Next item on our agenda is nuisance parties, local law. This is something that, thank you. Something that we've discussed over time among the town board. It's something that's been recommended to us from the police department as a means of helping them better control situations in the neighborhoods. So all the town board members have received a proposed resolution and the proposed law a few weeks ago, and then again recently. Jim, you've made some changes most recently. You want to just give us a brief overview of some of the changes, and then we can just discuss it on the board?
I didn't make the changes to the Cortland local law, but the memo that I sent to the board and the police department outlined some things that you might consider along the lines particularly of calling for notice given to owners when a ticket is issued to someone who's an occupant, and when there's a conviction, and authorizing the police department to give notice to an owner if information comes to their attention which suggests that there might be a problem afoot. And the reason I suggested that is because the pursuit of these issues as relate to owners tend to be factually different than other persons who might be subject to it.
I saw your memo that you sent earlier, and I think the way this is written, it makes sense because it deals with the person who has rightful possession or possessory control of the property. Because I think it's hard to ticket somebody for something if they have no control over the property. So when you rent out something, lease out something to somebody, you don't have the right to go in and just walk in and say, you can't do this today, you can't do that today, who's here? So I think the way this is written, the person who's in control of the property gets ticketed. I think the key part of this ordinance is that the nuisance parties, ticketing somebody, sending them into court later on is a solution, but the real solution is just shutting it down immediately. And I think that's what this seems to be able to allow us to do. And that's, I think, the key to keeping these things under control, is shutting them down immediately. As far as preventing them from reoccurring, and I looked at the tickets that were issued over the past year to people up in the north end of town. And one of the things that I noticed is that there's a certain property on Woodlawn that was hit with a ticket for noise violations in January, and they were the organizers of parties at the end of the year. If the fine structure is significant on the front end and escalates significantly enough on a second or third violation, I think you probably prevent a lot of these things from reoccurring. So if this allows us to stop it today, the fine structure is high enough that if you do it again, you're paying thousands, not hundreds. I think that makes the impact to shut these things down. The other thing that I thought might be useful, and I'm not sure if we can or can't do it, is to be able to allow the police to confiscate alcohol on the premises when they violate this ordinance.
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things you want to do is you want to shut it down. You also want to prevent the fact that when the police drive away, they don't circle back and start it back up again or take the alcohol to another location. And a lot of times the nuisance parties involve underage drinking. So I don't know if you I'm not sure if in the law currently, if there's underage drinking, the police are allowed to confiscate the alcohol. But to me, if you could confiscate alcohol that, whether it's all the alcohol on the premises at the time, or kegs, or alcohol that's beyond personal consumption, whether it's, anything more.
Some other parties, we need to bring up a U-Haul in order to get it all
Right.
away.
Well, and that's where I think one of the ways to deter this, because, we're talking about these college end of year parties, and they have the neighborhood crawl. Somebody orders 40 kegs. If you tell them that you already have a violation because you had a party 3 months earlier and we ticketed you, so the next violation is going to be $1,000 fine or $5,000 fine and up to 15 days in jail. And B, when we come out there and you're violating the nuisance party ordinance, we're also going to confiscate all your alcohol. I'm guessing that's going to be a pretty heavy deterrent where it doesn't make sense anymore for these kids, these people, to do this.
Well, part of and you're right, and I agree with a lot of what you said. Part of the problem, though, with the fine structure is that we know for a fact these people, these organizers of these parties are charging a cover. So they may get 100, 200 people at their party at $30 a head. So
that's why my suggestion.
It's a big moneymaker.
That's why my suggestion is
these
you get one shot, the fine's high but reasonable. The second shot, the fine escalates significantly. The other thing is the ordinance also allows for up to 15 days in jail. I think for some of these kids, that may be something that's somewhat effective. But I also think when you go back to the finances involved, if the police were able to confiscate the alcohol, party's over, profit's gone, these people.
I think the important thing is to end the party, you're right, however we do that. But, and the property you mentioned on Woodlawn's a great example because that homeowner is out of town. He was notified, the first party, we were notified when Porty Johns were delivered to the home. So the police department called the homeowner and said, are you having a problem with your septic tank? He said, no, I just spoke to my tenants. Why? Well, you've got a couple Porty Johns sitting in your house. The next party, then this spring, they had, again, and the homeowner was MIA.
The problem with that is, though, if you rent property to someone, you can't just go on and say, I heard you're going to have people over tomorrow night.
But they could they could have it in their lease.
Right, but even
we make life miserable enough for them.
Even that is a process, and that's not going to be done instantaneously.
No, I understand that.
And then the other thing is you're going to have landlords that the financial impact of evicting somebody will be that the landlord is one that takes that hit. That's what I say. I think the key with this ordinance is that you shut down the party immediately. I think the other side of it is, and I don't know if we can or we can't, if we're able to also allow the confiscation of any alcohol at the premises.
I'd like to see that, but I'd also like to...
Because that, to me, then it's done.
I agree with you, and I'd like to see both those things done if we can.
Position on this too, by the way, because won't they just move to the city? Hey, the city begins.
We're here to govern the town.
We're worried about the town, but the reality is they go over there, they get tanked. Are we still going to be taking care of them when they come walking back to their... So maybe we should try and get the city of Poughkeepsie on board.
The city's putting different ordinances in place that... But I do, and I agree with everything you've said, but I do think these absentee homeowners, we have homeowners up there who are super responsible and find out something's going on in the house and they take the initiative and they prevent it from happening or they act. Then we have others who hear that, and the chief could tell you. I mean, we call them, we tell them something's going on, and there's like, what do you want me to do about it?
But again, I think the problem is if somebody doesn't have actual possession of the property or control over the property, if you're the landlord and you have a tenant, you tell them you cannot do this, even if you tell them they're going to be in violation of the lease if they do it, until they actually breach that agreement, you can't do anything about it. That's what I say. I think ultimately, I think the most important thing is stop the party and get them out of the neighborhood. Leave the good people alone. This ordinance allows us to do that. Like I said, the other part of it that, just watching what went on last month.
Yeah.
The other part of it is removing the alcohol from the equation. I think going to court, hitting them with fines, if you hit them early, by the end of the year, it tends to be the same group of people. Things. If you hit them early and this fine structure escalates significantly, you probably prevent most of it. The few that insist on doing it, if we're able to confiscate the alcohol, then I think
Jim, what do you think?
If you're going to have a party that's going to last 10 minutes and you're going to get shut down and your alcohol is going to be confiscated, most people would at that point say, forget it.
Can we?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. B, I will check. C, my concern is that unlike an unlicensed firearm or drugs, alcohol is a substance which is legal to possess. And I will find out, but I'm not sure that we could
I would tend to think if you
confiscate a
approved a
legal
few
substance.
people and you saw somebody under 21, then you could confiscate the alcohol. I would think
And
then you could take it.
if you tie it to underage, if there's any underage drink, like I
You'll
said,
check it out. You said you'll check it out.
I think the big thing is you shut it down immediately. The other side of it is you got to get rid of that alcohol because otherwise it goes somewhere.
I will check.
My witnessing what was going on after it was getting shut down. The kids in the house saying, "We still got a lot of booze here. Anybody want to drink?" And that's the reality of it. Is somehow it will find its way somewhere else, which isn't really a great thing. So that's why I say if we can do it, just if it's a nuisance party and there's excessive alcohol, the police have the ability to confiscate it, or whether it's tied directly to kegs or whether it's tied to. I would think if there's underage drinking, that's proven, you probably at that point should be able to remove the alcohol from the equation.
Chief, got any thoughts?
I don't have the
Since I
answer.
called you up
I
front here.
don't have the answer
Yes.
about taking the alcohol. I suspect that will be problematic if we cannot prove that an underage person was on the premises consuming it. It also creates a logistic issue, but that's fairly minor in comparison. We've been dealing with college parties as long as I've been a policeman, but the problem has grown to an intolerable proportion in the last, I want to say, 10 years. In our conversation in the departments, we look back and it's become a significant issue when we started experiencing private residences being used for college housing. And it's not only one specific college. There are a number of colleges in the Hudson Valley that are made available to students, and it's not only in Fairview, it's in Arlington and it's other portions of the town. It's in hotels. Some of the colleges are using hotels for student housing, and it's in apartment complexes. So it's not specific to singular two-family residences in a particular neighborhood in the town. So one of the dynamics of this situation is, as far as me as the chief of police is my officers have continually been blamed for lack of enforcement and for the problems that are in the neighborhood that the neighbors are experiencing. And the reason why we take these complaints is that there is a legal a level of evidence and probable cause that has to be established for us to take certain criminal charges or take a summons, file a summons against someone for noise or public intoxication, which was taken off the book some time ago, disorderly conduct, urinating in public, and oftentimes, well, it's not often, I always leave it up to the discretion of the police officers, but we have tried to bring about a policy of zero tolerance where we have continually had the same experience at the same residences or the same streets. So this college year starts with our community policing officer spending more than a week visiting every known college rental property to speak to the students there, and he's joined by a member of the college community. They're given information packets. They're referred to websites. They're given information about a whole host of things, and specifically about conduct that's going to cause them problems in the community. We go through this entire process. I get briefed 10 o'clock every morning when school starts. I get a packet, and those packets, as you're aware of, get forwarded to you and to the councilman whose area the violations have occurred in. Unfortunately, for us, our experience is in one predominantly northern section, the Fairview section, where the majority of these complaints occur. So we're very aggressive about our enforcement, but there are a number of things we can and cannot do that cause the citizens up there to feel that somehow we're not doing enough for them, when in fact we do everything humanly possible, to the point where we assign police officers on overtime. We direct people on duty. I mandate supervisors to go to noise complaints to speak to the citizens. And we do this in a community that's also facing a host of other crime-related issues that I'm trying to balance, quality of life issues from college behavior, public intoxication, parties, to the whole gamut that we see the Hudson Valley being faced with narcotic abuse and drugs and violence in our area. So there's a constant battle in trying to do what's right for the community.
And if I could just throw in my 2 cents, I was able to witness the situation, and I got to say that Sergeant Hulbert, right? I don't want to.
Sergeant Hulbert, Gary Hulbert's our community policing
Sergeant
officer.
Hulbert did a tremendous job of communicating with the students ahead of time, communicating with the students throughout the day, and managing the situation. The chief was out there when I was out there. So the entire police force does a fantastic job. And in all honesty, when you watch what was occurring, even the merit students were pretty reasonable for the most part initially. The problem is it goes from the morning all the way through in the afternoon and the evening. And nobody can go that long without becoming a little bit.
It's also a 3-day. It's a 3-day event.
But the thing that was sort of impressive is the flow. The first house where I saw what was going on, there's a lot of people, but they were in the backyard, relatively controlled. And unless you were right there, you probably wouldn't notice it. And when the kids moved from one house to the next house, they had mugs. They held them upside down to show that they didn't have alcohol in them, so there was no open container or any other issues. And they were pretty respectful and moved in a uniform manner. The problem was when they got to Woodlawn. Woodlawn was sort of the organizers. It got bigger, louder, noisier, and as the 2 kids who were running the thing were saying how they weren't noisy and why would there be a problem? Fireworks are going off in the background, and that's the problem. Is
and if you recall, I'm the one that ordered the renters of the property, the 2 student organizers, to get summonses for noise. The big issue here is, and I've spoken to landlords. Sergeant Hulbert speaks to landlords.
Absolutely.
When we see porta potties and 30, 40, 50, 60 kegs being distributed to 5 homes, we know we're going to experience
Something's
a
up.
problem. We know.
That's good police work.
So if I were in the FBI, I would refer to that as a clue. So upon seeing that, we notify, we have intelligence, and that's Sergeant Hulbert's one of the great jobs he does. We know well in advance where the beer is being distributed, who's delivering the beer, what the residents, the particular houses are, and all you have to do is get a copy of their T-shirt, because the addresses of the parties are printed on the back of the house crawl T-shirts. So we're dealing with anywhere from 75 to 85 college rental properties. The vast majority of the landlords are very responsive to us.
I would agree.
On the occasion of this event, where we had prior notice of these 5 houses, 2 landlords chose to say to their kids renting, not on my property. And the vast majority of them have clauses in their lease agreements that say no parties on the property. And then if we call them and say, look, here's the problem we're having. We're having problems with them with cabs at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have problems with the stereo. We have problems with them slamming car doors when they park behind the house. We have problems when the windows are open. And we experience these problems when they first arrive at the end of August, when they have college events, homecomings, football, soccer, whatever the event, basketball games, alumni weekends. Then they go away for break, and then as soon as they come back after Christmas break, we have to put officers back up on overtime, and then we face the I'm going to graduate parties, which are a three-day event, and have now become part of the culture. And the reason why I say that is because the students have told us we're not going to be the ones to end this tradition, because we've given them alternatives, places to do it safer.
And Maris gave an alternative.
And they tried. Maris has tried.
did.
And Maris has been good with us. The problem is, after all this goes on, and all this aggravation, and all this stress, and all our officers being redirected, they graduate, because these are mostly seniors.
Right.
And the parties that occur at graduation week are senior events. And we've had a hard time proving anyone was underage. That can be problematic. So what happens is, they leave. Then the next August or September, a whole new group comes in. And those landlords that are willing to work with us are good. I would think that if we were to put a landlord on notice to say, you're about to have 4 porta potties and 30 kegs deposited on your property, and the landlord fails to back us up or assist us, and is willing to accept that, if in fact we've put them on notice, on written notice.
And I know you
and
do.
we've documented it to the
Absolutely.
landlord, and then we have to go up and expend thousands of dollars, manpower resources, putting our officer at risk, all this to try to keep a community habitable for the people that are trying to get on with their daily lives. And the landlord chooses not to do that, and we still bring this action, then the only way I think this is going to be drawn to some sort of closure control is, at the end of the day, I think a landlord who has a problem property
I would agree.
needs to be put on attention. And the good part of this is, we've been very successful in reducing the size of the property and the unresponsiveness of the landlords. It's a very small group.
And just to jump in, I agree.
But Councilman Krakauer, he saw this one house that defies description that anyone's even living in there, and there were 250 people in the yard, and they weren't done. They were going to go to the last stop, and the ones we stopped, they went to another house. It's different if we have no prior notice. How would
That's
the
one
landlord
thing, and
even
that-
know?
right,
How's the
that'll
landlord supposed to know?
happen. But that's not the
I
case
don't have
in
a
these.
problem. But when we put a landlord on notice to
I
say,
agree.
you are putting this department and the residents of your street, and you're still going to do this from the safety of your home down in Queens, Staten Island, or wherever, then there needs to be some sort of dialogue on how this is never going to
And
stop. Because
one of the problems
truly, it's never going to stop.
One of the problems that you have is that the biggest parties are at the end of the year, and it is seniors graduating, and they're walking out the door.
Right.
So
We don't see 'em
and
again.
again, I think the escalating fine structure, because most of these people didn't just have their first party; it's their last party.
Yeah.
I think
These kids are making so much
I
in
think
these
the fact
parties,
that
though, it's gonna be
the
hard to
ordinance, but
deter
the
'em.
ordinance allows for up to 15 days in jail for a civil infraction.
Yeah, we're going to put our college kids in.
No, but here's the thing. The escalating fine structure, the fact that there is that threat, because these are college kids that are going off in the world, and they have no desire to get wrapped up in the legal system. The other side of it, though, is if you tell, most of the landlords comply. And the thing is, most of the kids are good kids, and if you talk to them and tell them, listen, you can't do this, they won't. And even the ones that are a little bit of a problem.
I'm not so sure about that.
If you talk to them and they don't respond, you talk to the parents usually respond. The problem is, those two guys that were running that party, the conversation that they were having was ridiculous. But they
were intoxicated.
Yeah, they were drunk at that point.
But they believe they had a certain right to do whatever they want.
That's right.
And the problem really is,
They expressed that on a number of occasions.
No matter what you do at that point, no matter who else you blame or try to pin it on, the most important thing is stopping that party and taking that alcohol away. Because if you told the landlord on April 1st that the kids are going to have a party and they refuse to listen and the landlord tries to evict them, they're probably having a party.
I don't care if they evict them. I want to you're talking about fines, and I agree 100%. I want those landlords that are unresponsive, I want to, if we can, I want to make
We
them
want
pay.
to stop the
But the
parties from
chiefs-
even being
And I
planned.
agree with
And the
or happening.
landlords can have built-in, I mean, they're holding the security
I agree,
deposit. They've got
but-
stuff they can beat the kids with.
And I agree with what Stefan said. The police department's done a great job. We beefed up enforcement. We're handing out tickets left and right up there. They're doing their part. What the chief has told us previously, before this meeting is, they're doing all they can. At this point, they need help. And they're looking for us to give them some assistance in additional ordinance.
There was an ordinance that floated through from some other community a while back that was a keg registration ordinance. And I don't know what community did that or whether it's something that's withstood challenge. But I go back to the fact that, again, they're getting 30, 40, 50 kegs delivered to a couple houses. That's the problem, because a couple people having a drink, no matter who they are, how old they are.
We can't regulate kegs, and if you regulate kegs, they're going to go to bottled beer.
Which is
And that's
probably
gonna-
worse,
that's
because
even
then you
more
get the
problematic.
cans
But
and
that's
bottles
where I
all
go
over
back to, if we shut down a party at a house and they got 40 kegs there, most likely those kegs are going to another location, and that's where, and whether it goes to another location in town or another location in the city, that's the problem. That's why I say if there's any way to
We'll look into that.
Look,
confiscate it
we support
or
you, Chief.
but-
We hear your pain.
My
We support
point,
you.
Mr. Conti, is we do not want the parties, period. So that I don't have to put the resources.
Sure.
We don't have to file the complaints.
Over time.
And the landlords can do a little bit more to support the quality of life in the neighborhoods where these students are living. I don't have a problem with the students. The students, by the large portion, are respectful. The landlords, by the great percentage, have been excellent with us, very cooperative, return phone calls, and do great with my community policing sergeant. But there again, I'm dedicating hours, weeks, across the entire school year, all in support of trying to keep the year-round residents, the people that own these homes that are not renting out, so that their kids can walk up and down the street, they don't have to listen to the noise. And after 10 years, I'm here to tell you, we've done
be tough.
everything possible, okay? And I don't want to target landlords, but I don't know what else to do. I've talked to a landlord on the phone. The guy was basically laughing at me, all right? But at the end, he goes, well, I've already rented the house out, but I'll tell you what. He says, you're the chief of police. I'll put an addendum in my contract and tell the kids no parties. Now I got to figure out, chief, what's a party? That's the level of.
Let's
We
Get Jim
definitely have
on
the
that.
message.
See what-
Jim, you got some
Jim.
homework in terms of kegs, in terms
Fines.
of confiscating
Arrest.
the alcohol, and a resolution before us,
time.
your proposed ordinance, and
Well, no.
we'll work on it.
Here's the thing, if the kid is causing a problem and he's
Over and over and over.
Bottom line is, the fine makes a difference. Those two guys arguing and their demeanor and their disposition, I think they would have sobered up pretty quickly if you said, geez, you know what, you could spend the night in jail if you can't figure out how to shut this down and clear these people out. And that's what I say. Yeah, no, my intention is to put college kids in jail. It's to put people that are idiots that don't have any ability to understand or follow the rules or follow the laws.
Well, the problem is, that was their second party in about a month.
No, that's what I'm saying is
If they
when
do it
the-
over
They
and
didn't
over
get
and
the
over.
message
I
the
think.
first time.
when the arrogance level gets to here.
That's when they go.
And they're making
No, I agree.
a ton of money off of it. It's not a college
Thanks, Chief.
having a drink.
I hear you.
Now it's
They are
something-
making a lot of money off it,
No
yeah.
respect for anybody.
Yeah.
And so you can't put a person in jail forever for something like that. But if you told them, listen, if you can't figure out a way to just shut your mouth now and close it down, you're going to spend the night in jail. That, I think, has a much bigger impact than telling some of these kids, we're going to fine you $1,000 when they just made $20,000.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So Jim, we got the message from the chief. I think you've got a little homework, but we all get the message. We need something in place to help the police department regulate what's going on up there.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
circulate an amended draft, and I'll
Good.
look at those issues and
Okay. Thank you.
memo on that.
All right, next up, two gentlemen are becoming acquainted with, Mr. Tinkelman and Ms. Rodriguez, concerning the Springside Neighborhood Development Project. I think there's been a few changes, and they've tried their best to keep us updated as to changes and anything that's going on with the project, so they're here to give us an update tonight. Steve?
Thank you. Good evening. We are delighted to say that, we've had some success on moving the project forward, and one of the issues that we struggled with was there was a corner residence on I guess it's the northwest corner of Sites and Springside that was outside, maybe you want to point to the area, Mike, that was outside of the site previous, and it played an important role, I think, in the visual impact of the corner intersection of Van Wagner and Sites and all that, and we've reached an agreement to acquire that parcel. So the reason we're here and is we think that the project is a lot better in a lot of ways, which we can talk about. But when we were last in front of you for the changing of the zone for the effort, we didn't include that parcel in that action. So one of the requests then would be is to come back to the board here and have that corner parcel, which I think is R20. To be rezoned to be into the ATC, which is the Arlington Town Center, which then it would be in conformance with all the other parcels that are part of the project. The house currently has 2 units in it. There were 3, but there are 2 legal units in the structure. The overall project doesn't get any larger other than those 2 units. But there were some nice changes that occurred, and it's funny, on the heels of a discussion about beer and alcohol and all that. We're trying to make alcohol the center of but it's also a bakery and coffee house. But the structure that we're proposing, and Mike, you want to point it out. Originally we had a driveway that went up the hill there in the center of it, and it seemed like it was less pleasant than not having it there. The access now will be on Sites, which brings the project back into the neighborhood a little bit more, which I think is a good thing for the neighborhood. We're also then creating from the upper areas, and Mike, if you can just help in the description, is we're going to have walking paths from the upper campus or upper part of the site down behind this lower building, which is now about 4,000 square feet on the first floor of commercial space, and then there's 6 units above it. So on this side of Springside, we're going to have a campus now of 23 units and about 4,000 square feet, a little bit more. We're having good discussions with somebody that, if this works, would be amazing to put together, because I think part of the success of the neighborhood is really having something that would really add to the reason why you want to live here. We have a couple things we want to ask of the board. One of the things is in the sense of trying to do some improvements on Springside. The project is really tight to do, and I know that we were successful with you, and to this day I'm appreciative of the pilot agreement. We have to also extend the pilot agreement to this parcel because it was established by this board to cover the balance of the parcels, but not this site. I should also report that last week we went in front of the Arlington School Board to present the project, and we had no idea what the outcome was going to be. They were looking at it cold, and we got a tremendous response, a 9-0 vote to support the pilot agreement. So we were successful with that, and they supported what we've been doing and working with you here, and now we're beginning the process with the IDA to move forward with that. We think that there's also a potential opportunity, which we'll know a little bit more apparently before the month is out, but there's some new economic standards coming in from HUD for this area, and if the standards come in as they think, it may not be great news for the town, but it then opens this up for some community development block grant money. And so we've beginning to have conversations with Dutchess County to move that along if in fact the census comes back with that information. We have a couple things beyond what you know of already that we'd like to present to you, which is a simple thing, is this new commercial building, this new mixed-use building that is along Springside, we want to propose to put some on-street parking in front of it. We think it makes it more business-friendly. It makes it more like a traditional neighborhood. We're able to put some handicap parking directly in front of those businesses. The building that we're talking about, as you'll begin to see it over the coming weeks or months, has a nice long porch along in front of it, so there could be some outdoor dining. We have also a really nice public space that's beginning to be developed between, Mike, you want to point that out too? Between this new building and the existing house that's on the site. We're trying to save some trees and create some outdoor space that could be used by the businesses or by the public to just, to enjoy the property and such. So the request is to see if the town would allow us to put those 8 spaces there. We think it would really be a nice addition. We're beginning to also look at new sidewalks and curbs and some lighting in that area and such. And we'll come back if and again with the scale of what these public improvements will change depending upon whether it's going to be all in the nickel of the project or whether we can get some of the funding from Dutchess County as well. So, and then the last thing to talk about is we are moving forward with, we had a little hiccup with the DOT and got great support from the supervisor and from Neil Wilson this week. And it looks like that transaction will continue as proposed. And then we'll want to come back and work out an arrangement with the town. We've got an appraisal that we should get back tomorrow now, and that we'll submit to to Neil Wilson on, which may help everyone set the value for that property moving forward, the old roadbed on Springside. So that's the reason for being here tonight.
For my 2 cents, I love the outside dining, dining on the porch, whatever you want to call it. So I think that creates a great atmosphere when, especially in a neighborhood setting, when people can sit outside during the nice weather and, dine. We see a lot of it happening in Arlington. More and more businesses are, desiring to do something like that. And I think it creates a great look for the area, especially, when the weather's nice and just a great atmosphere. So anything you can do up there to pull people outside and let them enjoy, the weather when it's like this, that would be really, I think, a positive.
So where's the parking for the 6 units of residence going to be?
The parking is all on the top of the hill. The ordinance requires.
So they're going to have a little bit of a schlep there for.
Not much.
Not much?
Not much. And actually we're going to have another tenant outdoor space. There's 3 that are being planned. One is, and it's not designed yet, we're working it through, but it's between the 2 buildings. Mm-hmm. There's a nice opportunity to have a communal sitting area. We're also looking at a water feature on that, and then we're also going to have some community gardens on the other hill. So part of this is making it so there are reasons why people want to live here. Yeah.
And did your stone root cellar, did that make the cut, or is that
made the cut?
All right.
Made the cut. Mm-hmm. The other thing just to say is I think Friday Poughkeepsie is opening. They did a really amazing job.
Ribbon cutting, yeah. What time is that? Do you know? I know I'd have it on my calendar. 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock. They did an amazing job, so hopefully they'll be successful. And we also signed a lease with PVE Scheffler, which is an environmental engineering firm that's going to take the small house, and we're actually putting an addition on to build a new conference room there. So people are beginning, part of the sales of this is this is what we're trying to do, and it kind of what we hoped would be the case here, and hopefully we'll continue with having such good response. We only have 1 space left, so.
And you have free parking here, right?
Yes, yeah.
Seems to be more crowded.
Throw that out there, right?
Otherwise,
for the week. So I guess the question is if we can work with Mr. Wilson and Eric and all that and begin to pursue that idea of having some on-street parking there. We think it would really add a lot of class to what we're doing here and convenience as well.
Was that building that's on the hill, was that going to be higher than it is going to be now?
No.
It wasn't.
So it actually may be a little lower than what's there now. That the existing.
No, I meant in your original drawings, you had planned to have something up on the hill. Was it going to be more than 2 stories? The
The original building had 3 stories in
Yeah.
part of it.
So now it's
Well,
bigger and lower.
It's a little bit bigger, but the center section is only 2 stories, so it's going to have, it's actually going to, when you see it, we're putting a lot of care into scaling it and detail and stuff like that, so.
My main concern is just still the traffic on my street, of course, since my husband just got killed Friday, and there was an accident in front of my house today. Not an accident, but a very close call. Screaming that I heard and had to go outside.
Well, again, we're not changing the secret documents as
No.
part of the process here, so we're not changing the scale of it. We actually think, unfortunately, that we'd like to build it bigger, but we're going to be limited by parking, and so you have to really, the only way you can be successful with tenants is to make sure that they're adequately, compensated for that, so. What happens plan-wise here is I don't know, everyone's really been great working together, and we're trying to get under construction this fall with that north campus. It's possible it'll get elongated till the break of spring, but we're really still focused to try to get underway before the year is out. That then turns our attention to the bigger building on the front. It probably is going to be a little smaller than we talked about just because of the parking issue again. But we also are beginning to have conversations with users here, and the city of Poughkeepsie might not like it, but there's interest in coming to the town,
Any questions, comments?
Sounds good.
Good, Steve.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good job.
So do you think that you would support the on-street parking? Is that something that?
Yeah, I don't see it as an issue. Talk to,
How wide is that road? Because I know my road
well, I was
is,
going to say, talk to.
well,
the
that
high-
park on the street, and it's the nightmare.
Talk to the superintendent of highways. We have snow ordinance
Yeah.
during the winter months.
Yeah.
But we certainly could, look at that, and the traffic, I would think, is going to be limited. You're going to have to make sure it's parking that's available probably just for the customers of the retail shops that are down below. You're not going to want your tenants
Right.
taking
We'll
those
limit
spots, or whether you put an hour, we have some type of hourly restriction in there, something like that,
That's exactly who we want to be there.
Okay.
We actually have, on the top of the hill, we're providing 2 spaces for each unit. The ordinance requires less than that, but we think it's probably smart to.
Yeah, that's good.
So we're landscaping that parking lot so it doesn't feel so big, but.
I've actually had preliminary conversations with Mark Pfeiffer about the on-street parking. His primary concern is being able to effectively plow the snow. So that's, but he didn't reject it offhand. He's more than willing to
Well, I would
work with us.
assume the snow ordinance would be in effect.
It certainly
Over,
would. He was
you know,
more
which
concerned
restricts
about the-
overnight parking.
Yeah, it was more, right, exactly. But, as long, the snow ordinance would be in effect, but in terms of actually being able to effectively remove snow, provided that we have snow storage areas and, things like that shown, he indicated that he's
Well, how would-
generally okay with it.
And I hear what you're saying, but he's plowing the street now.
He's plowing the street now, yes.
Obviously the developer is gonna plow his parking lots and be responsible for the snow in his parking lots, so wherever he's putting the snow from the street now,
Yeah,
I would
but
assume.
I think the key to it is that we're not putting parking along the entirety of the street.
Yeah,
There are
yeah.
sort of keyed
Yeah, I
in
hear
certain
you.
areas,
Yeah.
but it's definitely something, and the other thing too, if you look closely at the plan, I don't know if you can actually see that from where you're sitting, the parking spaces are not all entirely within the right-of-way. Some of them actually fall, kind of in and out of the private, within the private property.
All right.
But sort of going forward, one of the reasons that I had asked Steve and Michael to appear tonight is to sort of brief you. You're going to be getting this set of plans to kind of restart the seeker process to extend the Arlington Town Center to include this corner piece that was.
and how big is that piece?
Quarter of an acre.
So you'll be getting that formally for the next week's meeting to refer to the planning board, and the planning board then will take up the seeker review
Perfect.
and will come back to you at some future point.
All right, very good, thanks. Thanks,
Thank you.
guys,
Thank you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
a lot. Thank you all.
All right, that brings us to the end of our committee of the whole. Before we do committee reports, I'd just like to suspend the rules for public comment on town issues or anything we discussed tonight.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there anybody who'd like to address the board? Doreen?
Yeah, as far as the parties at Marist, I know that Dutchess County has a social host law, so if there is any underage drinking that can be proven, I don't see why that law wouldn't apply. So I'm sure Mr. Nelson will take that into consideration.
Does that allow for the confiscation of the alcohol, or is it just to charge responsibility back to
If you keep talking about something, I got it in here, I'll look it up and I'll tell you. I don't think it does. I think the problem is that the alcohol is not necessarily a fruit of the crime. It's not a prohibited but I'm looking. Go ahead.
Okay, and then
Doreen's got more, so
yeah, I have a whole
come up with
list.
something.
The latest stormwater report, the response to the comments has been posted on the town website, and I will have a few comments about the response. And I only bring that up because anything after June 1st, if it's brought to the attention of the board, it has to be addressed the next time around. So I'm just bringing that to your attention. And then Felicia was talking about traffic in our neighborhood and accidents. And last week there was a 4-car accident at the Boardman and Spackenkill Road intersection. I know my husband passed along that information to you, and I filed a FOIL request for the accident report. But again, just remind you, these situations not getting any better, and the library's not started up yet, and and the assisted living, I don't know what stage that's in right now. So,
and I saw the accident. It was cars coming up the hill,
right.
So it looked to me like someone must have been doing something they shouldn't have, and you rear-ended.
Right. Most accidents, I would say,
Well, I
are caused by
understand.
somebody doing something they shouldn't.
Well,
so I'm just bringing it to your
that's the
attention.
case, but I also think, as a rule of thumb, the traffic counts on Spago, that percentage of accidents on Spago, I don't think are greater than anywhere else, but the chief could probably dig that information up.
Yeah, I did file FOIL request for accident stats and for that information. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Mr. Krakow, it doesn't refer to the beverages.
On the report for the street lighting, I hope that we kind of look at some of these other states and towns and villages that have done this to see what their experience has been with it. As far as these white lights, the light they give off, I hope they wouldn't be as bad as some of these cars with the headlights on some of these cars where.
Yeah, it's almost worse.
Why they haven't outlawed them by now is beyond me, because they're crazy. And I don't, something's got to be done. The other thing of doing with the cost of this factor, what scares me in this stuff, they throw out these numbers and so forth, just like Fortis, if I think their name was, from Canada, that bought the Central Hudson Electric and stuff like that, and all of a sudden, some of our bills jumped a couple of $100. Whether it's all tied in or not, I don't know, but it just makes you stop and realize that, everything's supposed to be good until it gets put into play. We find out that it was a big mistake. So I just hope this thing is looked into very, very close and not jump the gun on it, and where's the money coming from for the $7 million it said the project would cost?
It'd be financed, and the savings
over a number of years it would be
15
paid
years.
for. We can't pay for the taxes now, much
No,
less
no,
another.
Mr. Armstrong, I don't think the project financing would come out of the savings, the savings that is within the project that they guarantee. And if you don't see the savings, they've stayed the right to check. And my opinion is this, and I understand what you're saying, and it certainly would be something that we'd vet very carefully and pursue very carefully. But you know what? If we as a municipality sit here and do nothing, we're gonna get worse than.
Of
so
course.
we've got to try to find cost savings. We've got to try to do things that maybe haven't been done in the past. And if the fear of failure monopolizes our minds and makes us freeze in place, I almost think that's worse than not trying.
No, I'm
I hear what you're
I'm not
saying,
saying not trying,
but-
but I'm just saying, I think we gotta hope that we research this thing.
Oh,
very-
absolutely, I
very
agree with
thorough.
you.
They were pretty thorough themselves, too.
Well, we will, we
You know,
intend to,
There's been a lot
absolutely.
of things that you see all of a sudden, they backfire and say, boy, I never knew that was gonna happen.
Right.
Because there's some things you don't know are gonna happen. And this party stuff, I don't know why we fool around with these people the landlords that know this is happening. They're there in business. And business costs you money if you don't do the right things. And I don't know why we fool with this and take these people to task. They're in there to make money on our backs. We got to pay the overtime as taxpayers for the police and everyone else to get involved with this nonsense. I mean, I'm not against partying. We all partied. I mean, that's part of life. But
Joe
the way
didn't.
Joe, he never did. Okay, right.
Not that I can remember.
We got to stop fooling around with this stuff.
I agree with
It's
you.
nonsense.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I make a motion to resume the rules.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's go on to committee reports. Finance,
Nothing to report.
advisory,
Nothing to report?
government operations,
Nothing to report.
land use and planning,
Nothing to report.
personnel,
Nothing to report?
recreation, Stefan or Ann, do you know nothing? Jay had to leave. Senior citizens,
Nothing to
I
report.
would just, a week ago, we had a 100-year-old birthday party at the senior center. The guy's incredible. He actually celebrated his 100th by bowling. But we had 125 people or so at the senior center, seniors, and it was a Riverbank banjo band was there, and it was really a nice time and a great party. Technology and equipment,
Nothing to report.
infrastructure.
We've suspended the monthly meetings till September. This is the busy time for highway, plant water, sewer, and we'll restart back up in September. We do have some recommendations for water control in the area of the Alder Drive.
Cool.
Connecting with recreation's improvement that they're gonna do there.
Right. And, okay. All right. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Town board adjourns at 8:41 PM.